GMs for Hire.
Welcome back to GMs for Hire. I am Matthew Perry. With me today, Jamil King and Will Polston, and we're back. It's one of the, most funnest times of the year for us, I would say. It's our free agent predictions. I know we did it last year, had a great time. It's always an exciting part of the, baseball season itself, that being in the off season where, you have the winter meetings, you have the GMs getting together and, trades could be made, signings can be made. And this is a really good free agency class this year, I would say, headlined by a trio of shortstops that we're going to start with, specifically Carlos Correa. This past season, he won a Gold Glove at shortstop. He was an all-star, made a trip to the World Series. He lost, but definitely put on a show offensively. I believe he led all position players in WAR with a 7.3 WAR, which is very impressive. He's entering his age 27 season, so he's entering his prime, and this is the time for him to make some serious money. All three of us, actually unanimously, we're going to start off here, did select Carlos Correa to go to the Detroit Tigers, who are set to make a big splash this coming off season. They have kind of grown a little bit. They finished, second or third in the AL Central, which isn't a good division by any means, but they've definitely shown some growth through their farm system and through some sneaky pickups. So, Will, I'll go to you first. Why would Carlos Correa go to the Tigers, and how can that help the team?
Well, it all starts with AJ Hinch. I mean, obviously having the manager out there that you have experience with is going to be a big draw out there to Detroit. They're a young team and they're up and coming. They have a very good farm system. You're going to have a lot of good players that are going to be coming up here soon, such as Casey Mize, such as Tariq Skubal, such as Akil Baddoo. This team is young and they just need some veteran presence. Carlos Correa has been linked to Detroit ever since free agent. I mean, it's just one of those things to where it just happens to be who he's connected to. And I think we've all agreed. I find it funny that we all agree that he's going to Detroit. I feel like it's almost locked in after denying the qualifying offer. I know Houston's making a push for him still, but I still think Detroit still comes out on top and he goes back with AJ Hinch.
Jamil, what kind of contract do you see Carlos Correa getting?
Oh, I think he's going to get a fat deal. I think he's by far going to get the most out of anybody in this class. I think he's going to rival the deal Francisco Lindor got last season with the New York Mets. I think the reason he's going to be going to Detroit is because Detroit's going to outbid everybody because they have the means, they have the needs, and they have the need. They have the money and the need to go get Carlos Correa. So I think that's why he's going to end up going there.
Personally, I do think it definitely fills a big need for the Tigers, and it kind of revamps their offense. I don't think they should be done by any means. If they can go out and get another guy, definitely go for it, because I do think the farm system that Detroit has is somewhat prospect heavy. Not prospect, yes, of course. It's pitching heavy despite Spencer Torkelson and a couple other names. But I do definitely think that Correa could make waves in Detroit. There are other teams out there like the Yankees and, of course, the Astros who will potentially need a new shortstop that are shopping for a new one. And obviously, they have plenty to choose from. We'll move to the next one. And it's Corey Seager. He'll be entering his age 27 season as well. I believe Correa and Seager's birthday is only like 5 days apart or something. So very close there. Play styles somewhat similar. I think Correa is a little bit more power heavy than Seager. But Seager's coming off an injury riddled season where he only played 95 games, hit 306, but didn't really get, a full slate to really earn whatever bag he could be getting here. Predictions wise, Will went with the Houston Astros. So already thinking ahead, you got to fill that shortstop role. And then Jamil and I did go with the New York Yankees. Will, I guess we'll start with you. Why the Astros?
Well, you got to replace him. Like you said, with Correa gone, they're going to need that shortstop void. Astros have the money, especially not paying Carlos Correa. You're going to have that empty salary that's going to have to go to somebody. And I have the Yankees going after a different shortstop later. So it ended up being, who do you go for? I think getting another left-handed bat out there in Houston will be fun with to add with Michael Brantley, to add with Yordan Alvarez, also Tucker,
Yeah,
kind of
that'd
even
be
up.
dangerous. That'd be a dangerous lineup. I wouldn't be a fan of that. I would be very upset with that
They'd be a
lineup.
nice split between righty lefty. I think he fits in well. It's another young piece, like you said, age 27 season going into. I think Seager is going to get probably a 7-8 year deal where he's going to ride around, be a Houston Astro probably for the remainder of his career, or at least a good chunk of it. And I think he fits right in.
As a Yankee fan, I do definitely have specific reasoning as to why I went with Corey Seager for my team. But Jamil, I want to hear your thoughts on why you chose Seager to the Bronx.
Yeah, obviously, I think the Yankees are going to nab one of these top shortstops, and I honestly think they're going to be right there with the Tigers for Correa. But I think that Seager's going to be slightly less cheaper, and I think he's a better fit for the Yankees because you get that lefty bat that you guys have needed for a little bit now.
Yeah.
The only problem is the injuries off and on, but when he's playing, he has one of the best. He's one of the best hitters in the league when he's on. And as a Rays fan, I'm not happy about it, but it'll be a good move for the Yankees and a move I could definitely see them making.
Yeah, absolutely. This past season, the Yankees kind of made it known that they needed to step up the left-handed bats. They went and got Anthony Rizzo and Joey Gallo at the deadline, which originally looked like good moves, and I think in the long run could pay off. But so far, they had kind of a disappointing second half of this past season. And, Rizzo's a free agent. We're going to talk about him later. But, if they get production from the lefty bats that are playing on this team in 2022, Seager's going to be a great addition to that. You have the short porch and right, which, like I said, actually before we went live, doesn't necessarily mean offensive production because we saw Rizzo and Gallo struggle. But I do think he fits right in. He's good enough defensively to hang around. He's definitely better than Gleyber Torres defensively, and I think that's kind of the big portion of why he's coming in. You want to upgrade the defense. I think he just fit in. He does give off kind of leader vibes in LA, despite him being one of the, I'd say, quieter guys on that team. Correa, of course, would be fantastic in New York, and I would welcome it with open arms, but it just doesn't seem realistic with what's happened in the past couple of years. I don't know how the front office feels about that, if it's strictly business or, personal, but whoever the Yankees get at shortstop, I will more than likely be cool with, as long as it's not Javier Baez. But
hope it's Javier Baez.
Seager definitely brings another left-handed bat to the table, and I'll be very happy if that happens. We'll move to the third member of the trio. Peepow Javier Baez is not part of this trio. It's Trevor Story entering his age 29 season. I think he turns 29 in like 5 days or something. This is a player that the Yankees actually looked at the past trade deadline. And Will, you did predict that the New York Yankees would pick up Trevor Story, which, of course, I have no problem with. But Jamil and I, thinking ahead, we decided that Trevor Story would be Carlos Correa's replacement in Houston, both of us predicting he would go to the Astros. Will, you're the differing one, so I'll go back to you. Why Story in the Bronx, especially over Seager or Correa?
Well, Houston makes sense for you guys, especially with the other two falling to the Yankees in Detroit. I get why you have Seager going to Houston in the end just to replace Correa, but the story to the Bronx situation has already been looked at the trade deadline, like you mentioned. So there's that history there. Whenever I saw Trevor Story, Houston didn't pop into my mind. There were only three teams that really came to mind, and that was the Yankees, the Mariners, and the Cardinals. And Cardinals, I only thought because of the Arenado Story connection. That's been talked about already. And then the Mariners, I feel like they're going to make a big splash. I mean, they just missed the playoffs last year by just a little bit, just a couple of games. But I have them making a big splash on a player later on that we're going to talk about. So ultimately it ended up being the Yankees. And I think Story's going to fit in right there with the Bronx. To me, he strikes in as a Yankee guy. Matt talks about future Yankees all the time, and Trevor Story's been one of those guys on those lists. So why not now? Just bring on Trevor Story over to New York and just make it happen.
Jamil, do you fear any kind of Coors effect with Trevor Story moving elsewhere? Of course, Arenado didn't really have that moving to Busch Stadium in St. Louis, maybe at first, but he settled in just fine and had a great season. How do you think Trevor Story will fare at a place like Minute Maid Ballpark?
Yeah, I think that the Coors effect would have a lot less of an effect if he goes to the Astros because you're into those Crawford boxes and left. So
Yeah.
it's really not that it's still a shorter field. So I think he would be fine in Houston. But yeah, I do think that in the beginning he might struggle because let's be honest, if you're playing for the Rockies, your stats are slightly inflated. I'm not going to say they're all the way inflated, but a little bit is going to be inflated because of the altitude. But I think it would be a good transition to go to Houston. I think Houston's a good fit for him because this contract that they're trying to give Carlos Correa now, that's pretty laughable, might be a little closer up the alley to a Trevor Story guy. He has Texas roots. A lot of people have him felt going to the Rangers, but I don't think he wants to be a part of another rebuild they just left. I think he wants to go and win. I know I would if I were in his shoes, if I was a professional athlete, I want to win. And why not go to a team that's been winning for a couple of years now?
Yeah. So personally for me, I went with the Astros just because I know that if the Astros lose Correa, they're not going to be that team that kind of takes their L and moves on. I mean, the Astros are pretty focused right now on winning a championship. And of course, they got the one tainted one a couple of years ago, and they've been trying their ass off since. Obviously, they made it to the World Series this year, fell short. But they're not going to, there are other guys out there, Jose Iglesias, Anderson Simmons, Freddie Galvis, more depth shortstops out there that you can get for much cheaper. And maybe the Astros will turn their money towards something else. Like starting pitching was a little bit of a problem for the Astros this year. Of course, Verlander being hurt and McCullers obviously missing the World Series played a part into this. But I mean, we don't know what the Astros will do with their money yet. But if they do, still focus on a shortstop after losing Correa, I think Story does fit the Crawford boxes. That's a great point. I don't really see a decline coming after Coors Field personally. Of course, this could happen. We're not sure, but I do think he'd play well in Houston and would somewhat fit right in for the right price. But yeah, the offer that Houston gave Correa was rather underwhelming. And I mean, we all know that he's worth quite a bit more than that. So we do suspect Correa moving on, and Story could be a proper fill-in. We'll move to Javier Baez. You two both have him going to the New York Mets. I kind of took a different route to this. I actually have him going to the Chicago White Sox. Now, the infield definitely, I'll start since I'm differing. The infield probably isn't necessarily a need for the White Sox. They definitely have 3 of 4 solid pieces there with Jose Abreu, Tim Anderson, and Yohan Moncada. But that second base position has always been kind of a question mark for the White Sox. Of course, you have, I believe, Nick Madrigal right now would be filling in that spot. He missed some time last year due to injury, but imagine an infield of Jose Abreu, Javier Baez at second base, Tim Anderson at short, and then Yohan Moncada at third. I mean, it's got to be one of the better infields in baseball. Baez is coming off a really good offensive season. Errors were up, so defensively he kind of struggled, and K rates were up, but he still hit over 30 home runs. An 813 OPS is pretty solid. The guy can hit. There's no real denying that. He fared well at Citi Field. Him and Francisco Lindor, of course, are best friends. They got along. So I also, because of that, I see why he would stay in New York. That's definitely got to be a reason why you guys picked that. But I don't know. I took a different path here just because the idea of that infield kind of excites me. But Jamil, why'd you go with the Mets?
For a couple different reasons. Number one, you mentioned it. Him and Francisco Lindor, they're really tight. They're best buds. I think that's one reason they're gonna want to stay together. If you're ownership, you just locked Francisco Lindor up for a very long time, so you want to keep him happy. Why not bring one of his friends that's also very good at baseball to stay on the same team? Another reason is this team and the Mets, they're losing a couple different players. So they're gonna need to keep some guys if they want to stay competitive. You just watched the Braves win the World Series. You just watched the Nationals win one 2 years ago. So your division keeps winning and you're not. So you need to do something to do that. And I think they're going to want to keep at least one of their big fish that's leaving. If not, they're going to have to be active in a couple other avenues this offseason. But I think they'll start by keeping Baez.
Well, why the Mets?
I mean, Jamil basically hit the nail on the head. The only thing is that I feel like Javi Baez might actually take a little bit less money to stay with the Mets just to be with Francisco Lindor. And if that's the case, they can kind of shorten up that contract and save some money for when somebody like DeGrom or whenever Alonso goes onto the free agent market, give him a little bit of an extendo as well. So I think Javi Baez would probably be willing to accept a little bit less money to stay in New York. He was really starting to get comfortable out there in Queens last year, right towards the end of the season. Strikeout strikeout rates were still astronomical. But he started to develop a little bit more of an eye, started to take a little bit more pitches and everything towards the end of the season, started to come into his own a little bit. I could see him just staying with the Mets on not a big deal, but also not too short of one either. I'm sure he'll get a nice multi-year deal.
The Mets have a busy offseason. Stroman, Conforto, Syndergaard, all free agents, and a front office that isn't complete right now. They're still looking for a couple bodies. So definitely a lot going on up in Queens, hoping they figure it out, of course, and maybe Baez will be one of those answers. But we'll move to a guy that definitely figured it out this past year, and that's Marcus Semien. Best year of his career, 45 home runs, over 100 RBIs. I mean, these were numbers we hadn't seen before from Marcus Semien. He won a Gold Glove to add to a great offensive season, so he did a little on the defensive side as well. And, I mean, he's entering his age 31 season. I'm kind of wondering, and Jamil, I'll go to you first for this one. Is he in for big money? I guess I will ask, because we hadn't seen this from Semien before. He was a reliable infielder prior to this season with the Oakland Athletics, but he takes a one-year deal with Toronto, completely blows up, becomes, I think he was a top 5 offensive hitter this year in baseball. And I mean, he's going to be, high want, but how high does that go really?
Yeah, I think he's going to end up making good money for himself. I don't think he's going to hit the upper echelon numbers that the main 3 shortstops are going to hit, but I do think he's going to get a good 3 to 5 year deal worth $100-something million. Because, he batted himself and he hit big. And let's not forget, this guy can still play shortstop. So a team that's going to get him, he's very, very versatile. I think Toronto is going to do their darndest to keep him, but they have a lot of decisions to make, which we're going to talk about later. So I don't know if the money is going to be there to keep him along with the other pieces. But yeah, he had a resurgent season. His offense blew up. His defense was good. So I think he's in line to make some decent money this offseason. You
personally have him going to the Texas Rangers. Why is that?
Yeah, so I think the Rangers are in a position where they're ready to start turning over from rebuild to be good. You have this new stadium. You want to fill the seats. You can't sit there and waste your money on that. And I think they're going to have a big offseason in terms of going after a couple different players. And for me, you just mentioned about the money thing. I think the Rangers have the opportunity to offer him the most money than a couple of these other clubs. I think that a couple other teams will be on him. I think the Mariners, the Blue Jays, and the Red Sox are all going to go after him hard. I think the Yankees are a dark horse for him as well. But at the end of the day, I think the Rangers offer him the most money. And I think at this point, when you're 31, you had that season. Yeah, you want to win, but can you turn down 5 years, $150 million? If it's something like that, I don't think you can.
Will, you took kind of a different route with this. You went to Philadelphia Phillies. Thoughts on that?
Yeah. So
I like that pick.
The Philadelphia Phillies had a piss poor middle infield this year. I mean, Gene Segura was still batting around 290, which is solid, but they have a fat hole at second base. This year, Didi Gregorius is playing a lot of it, batting a nice 209, batting a little bit rough, also battling injury issues. They couldn't really find a solid replacement to take over at second base. Alec Boehm's even playing a little bit iffy, only batting like 245 this season. And Semien has that versatility to where he could probably play any position on the infield minus first base. It's one of those to where I think they're going to be in the market for a middle infielder, and they're going to be in the market for a big name player because they want to get something going with Bryce Harper. So I think Marcus Semien is one of those guys who earned himself a pretty big contract, but a short year deal. He'll probably get maybe a 2 or a 3 year deal as opposed to these other shortstops that we mentioned who are going to get 5 to 9. So I could see Semien getting a pretty fat bag out in Philadelphia and just kind of riding it out for the next couple of years and really solidifying second base, or maybe even shortstop if they want to move Segura over to second.
I do like that pick a lot. Philly definitely struggling with the second base hole. Didi never played second with the Yankees, so hearing that was kind of shocking. And I can definitely see why he struggled.
I think that was more of a miscommunication. I think they had Segura at second and Didi at short.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But even then, I mean, Segura is a natural shortstop, and then bringing in Semien, who's a natural shortstop but can play second base. So it's one of those to where they could fit in those two. Segura and Semien would be a really good, a nice middle infield for that team.
Yeah, for me, I picked, I think, the safest bet. I do have him returning to Toronto. In my eyes, with Toronto's payroll, you have Marcus Semien and Robbie Ray, 2 deals that, pay dividends for them. It got them within a game of the playoffs, which I don't think many expected this season for the Blue Jays. But both Robbie Ray and Marcus Semien are going to get paid exponentially more than they were last season. So in my eyes, Toronto can only hold on to one, and this kind of spoils what I see for Robbie Ray later, but I do have Toronto picking Semien. I think that Toronto could hopefully rely on Alek Manoah and Nate Pearson if they stay healthy and get right. They're going to be crucial parts of their rotation for years to come. I really like the stuff I saw from Manoah this season when he was healthy, of course. And I don't know if the Blue Jays are that close to the playoffs without Marcus Semien because, 7.2 WAR, I think it's right behind Correa for most of a position player in this season. He paid dividends, like I said. And I know Vlad Jr. had a MVP caliber season. Other guys were good when needed. Of course, Teoscar Hernandez was great. Bo Bichette's always good. They have bats, but the addition of Semien did kind of take that to the next level. So I am kind of banking on them holding on to Semien and keeping their offense elite. Continuing along with position players, we do have Freddie Freeman. And I think this one's kind of a no-brainer for all three of us. He just got his ring. He has to be an Atlanta Brave for life, and all three of us did agree with that.
Field for a base hit.
Well, talk to me about Freddie Freeman
around. Here
because,
comes the throw from Garcia. He's got a great arm, but it'll be late. And the Braves strike first.
And you get the city a ring for the first time in over 20 years. You hit 331 home runs. You win MVP the season before. Things are looking right for Freddie, and I see no reason why Atlanta wouldn't pay him whatever he wants, really. I mean, he's the backbone of that team. I think if Atlanta were to have a captain, he would be it. He has to be that guy. He's their leader. So I definitely see a return to Atlanta for Freddie Freeman. A return to New York for Anthony Rizzo, though. Two of us say yes, myself and Jamil, but Will thinks he's returning elsewhere. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, send him back to Chicago. A lot of teams, or I shouldn't say a lot of teams, but a lot of players are being speculated out of that group that left Chicago to be going back. I've heard speculation about Rizzo going back. I've heard speculation about Bryant. I've heard speculation about Baez. I wouldn't be shocked if one of them does go back. And if any of them is going to go back, I think it's Anthony Rizzo. I think he was more the captain with the Cubs, more than Bryant, more than Baez. He's just the likable guy. I feel like the best clubhouse guy for any of them. Bringing in a guy who's familiar with the organization, especially with new management for the Cubs, I think this could be a big move. If you're going to bring somebody back, at least bring back Rizzo. Do I think 100% that he's going to go? No, absolutely not. But if he's going to leave the Yankees, this is a team I could see him going to and going back and trying to reestablish the culture of the Cubs. That was there just a couple of years ago when they won the World Series.
Jamila, you have Rizzo returning. How do you suggest the Yankees handle the situation between him and Luke Voit?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. I think they're obviously going to have the way your outfield's set up too. It's someone's not playing every day. But maybe that's a good thing for you guys with all the injuries you have. Maybe it's best if someone sits every now and then. But obviously, you're probably going to have to platoon them. But I'm not 100% sure y'all are going to keep Rizzo. I think you are right now. I know y'all are active in the trade offers. Matt Olson is a guy that you guys might want to bring in. You guys can bring another infielder and have LeMahieu play first base. So y'all can do a lot of different things with your team right now. But as of right now, I think Rizzo will come back because I don't see a lot of different places for him. Maybe Boston if Schwarber doesn't return there. That'd be another reunion for Rizzo. But I think right now
get rid of Hosmer, send him to the Padres. Another reunion.
Yeah.
Well, Hosmer's been solid though, from my knowledge. I think he's been okay, right?
He's been okay.
Yeah. So right now, I think Rizzo, the Yankees is the move. That'd be a lot for Boone. Obviously, Boone last season had to deal with it. I don't know if he dealt with it the best. I know a lot of y'all weren't happy with some of the decisions he made with the team. But yeah, it's gonna be tough because Voit was fantastic 2 years ago. So we'll see what you guys do there.
Yeah, I mean, Voit battled injuries, so I don't really think anything should be taken away from him. And he started slow in his return from the injuries this past season, but he did eventually bring it together. Right now, I have Rizzo returning just because I think that both sides were pretty happy with, I guess, how it went. But he didn't have a good year last year, honestly. 1.7 WAR, lowest OPS since like 2013. It's not what you want. A lackluster second half, as I mentioned earlier. I don't know why I want him back. I'm saying he's coming. Well, I think he's coming back. I don't necessarily want him back. on a base level, sure. I like Anthony Rizzo as a player, but if he's not going to produce, of course, I don't want him. If he wasn't going to the Yankees, why not the Detroit Tigers? I mean, you're making moves. Miguel Cabrera is at the age where go DH. I mean, you really have no place being out in the field anymore. Why not? I mean, if you're trying to make something special in Detroit, Anthony Rizzo could definitely be a part of that.
Be a good clubhouse guy for them.
Exactly. I think anywhere he'll get along with the boys. I mean, he's always been that guy. So I have New York right now, but it wouldn't shock me if Detroit, Seattle, somewhere like that kind of reached out and tried making a deal. We'll move to Nick Castellanos, who had a very good offensive year, one of his best yet. He was an all-star, amazing offensive performance, hit 309, over 30 home runs, over 100 RBIs, I want to say as well. Kind of fell under the radar, I guess, with all the great offensive seasons we just had from Vlad Jr. and Ohtani, Bryce Harper, all these MVP candidates. Castellanos was right there for a lot of the season, and he declined his option from Cincinnati. He'll be moving on from there. And both of you guys actually have him going to the Miami Marlins. And I found that very interesting. We've yet to see the Marlins really have a big offseason, at least since Derek Jeter took over as owner. Obviously, last year, Kim Ng became the general manager, and they made a few decent moves. And I think if they don't get Adam Duvall and wind up moving him to the Braves might not win the World Series. Who knows? A little butterfly effect there. But yeah, we've yet to see like anything super special from the Marlins, but you two clearly think that's possible. Jamil, I'll go to you first. Why Castellanos to the Miami?
Yeah, Miami is another one of those teams like the Rangers, I think, that's ready to turn on over, start really trying to compete. Like I mentioned with the Mets earlier, you see these other teams in your division winning the World Series. And last season, this was anybody's division. Obviously, the Marlins started off very, very slow, but a year ago, they were on the wild card in the pandemic season. So this team has the capabilities to win some baseball games. They got a lot of good young arms. So now you got to get some guys that can score some runs. You have the money. You can give Castellanos a good payday to go out there and do what he did last year with the Reds, which was very, very good. 2 years ago, I really, really, really wanted the Rays to try to get this guy when he was sliding when the Reds got him. But for me, with him, I think it'll be interesting to see if he wants to be on another team that isn't winning. I feel like he might be ready to start winning at that point. I don't know where he might end up. Maybe Toronto is a dark horse. I don't know. I think there's a lot of different teams that might be winning the game that they're ready to win.
Well, Castellanos is entering his age 29 season. What kind of contract do you see for Castellanos?
He's going to get, I'd imagine he's going to get like a mid-level type of years deal. I mean, he's been one of the more consistent bats over the last couple of years. Yeah. You watched him with the Cubs and now over with the Reds. I mean, he's been hitting like crazy. I could see him getting a pretty fat bag, pretty good heavy money wise, especially if he signs with a team like Miami that doesn't have a lot of payroll wrapped up. I mean, you got to think their whole entire rotation's young. Their star players are Brian Anderson and Jazz Chisholm, who are not on big contracts. This is a team with a lot of big money, and he's from Davie, which is just right down the road from Miami. I mean, it all makes sense. The hometown kid, a guy who could work in. And when you're thinking of the outfield of the Miami Marlins, it's a big question mark. They had a lot of injury issues this year. They could bring in somebody who's been consistent, been a great bat, and it could be somebody. This could be the first big splash of the Jeter Ng era out there in Miami.
I think it would be exciting to see Castellanos in Miami. I think kind of give Marlins fans a face of the franchise, because right now I don't know if they really have one. Miguel Rojas, Brian Anderson, maybe, but I mean, Castellanos would be that guy. I mean, he would be above and beyond the best player on that team, unless they make some other big moves, which would be honestly crazy. It's just not something I see the Marlins doing. But I kept it in the NL East. I went with the New York Mets. Actually, you lose Conforto, you have an open outfield spot. Even at third base, you had JD Davis, who was injured probably like half the season last year, and then kind of had his ups and downs the rest of the way. There's definitely a spot for Castellanos in this Mets team. And it's going to be a Mets team that, as I mentioned earlier, has a few guys leaving, money to burn. You still got to kind of get the front office in order before you start signing people, in my opinion. But Sandy Alderson does whatever he wants really with that team. He has for years. So we could see him make a couple moves. I have the Mets on here. Actually once now that I look at it, but they're going to be in the running for several different guys. Whether they get them or not is remains to be seen. But guys like Castellanos, guys like Kris Bryant, I'd definitely keep an eye out for. And I think Castellanos would fit well in this Mets team and definitely advance the offense, to say the least, because last year that was one of the big problems for the Mets. They could not produce offensively. So Castellanos to the Mets and greener pastures for that Mets offense. From one outfielder to another, we'll move to Starling Marte. And this is one where all three of us are differing on. And I'll start with myself. I don't think I've started with myself on this one. I have him going to beautiful, sunny Tropicana Field in St. Petersburg, Florida, to play for the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, their outfield might be a little full right now. Arozarena, Austin Meadows, if you play him out there, Kevin Kiermaier, Manny Margot, Brett Phillips, everyone's favorite mascot. They have quite a few outfielders, and even Vidal Brujan can play the outfield if need be. But, you move a couple guys around, you're going to get a better outfielder in Starling Marte. Phillips, Margot, and Kiermaier are all pretty expendable. Kiermaier, I believe, is entering the final year of his contract, and I think the Rays are cutting ties after this year. And he's been a franchise guy so far, but the offense more often than not doesn't cut it. And Jamil, you might disagree as a Rays fan. You can let me know. But I do think Starling Marte would obviously be a substantial offensive upgrade, and it would put together quite the outfield. I mean, Meadows or Rosarena and Starling Marte, offensively at least, is honestly, it could be a top 5 outfield on any given day. The Rays are obviously always tied for cash, so moving certain things around could free up cap, although the outfielders I mentioned that are expendable aren't taking up that much of it. I do think they can get this deal done. Starling Marte I think he's the type of guy that he doesn't really need something long-term. You give him a couple of years, I think he'd be cool with that. I honestly have not heard if he has any requests regarding it. Honestly, I think Starling Marte is a man of few words to begin with. Thinking in years past, I haven't heard him.
I don't think I've ever heard him speak.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard him be very vocal about anything in baseball, let alone a contract. So I would like to see this happen because it would be quite the upgrade for the Rays outfield, at least offensively. But Jamil, I'll go right to you. You can comment on the Rays if you need be, but you actually have him going to the Mets, which I think is somewhat similar to me having Nick Castellanos going to the Mets, but I want to get your opinion on it.
Yeah, I like your Castellanos to the Mets move. The reason I had Marte going to the Mets is I feel like they need someone out in center field to patrol Citi Field out there. So I think that's why I had him sliding with the Mets. I do think they need to make an upgrade somewhere, but I like your Castellanos move. As far as the Rays getting Marte, that would be great on paper. Marte would be a huge upgrade. I think he's one of the more underrated players in the league right now. He's put together 2 fantastic seasons across of Oakland, Miami, and where was he before that?
Pittsburgh?
Yeah, he was in one other spot, I think.
Oh, Arizona.
Arizona. Yeah. He's put together some really good seasons. He steals bags, he gets on base, does everything he needs to do. But as far as the Rays go, I personally just don't see how we were going to pull that off. It's not our MO to go out and give 2 or 3 year deals like this. We have to move around a lot of different money. We have to move around a lot of the outfielders. I, for one, will be all for it. I just don't think it's feasible for the way we operate.
Well, okay. I mean, that's perfectly fair. I just figured I'd give it a shot. But Marte to the Mets, why?
Oh, me? Oh, that kind of forgot before. I think they just need to get a center. I think they need to go and get another outfielder. And I think a center fielder like Marte will fit their need at the top of their lineup to set the tail for guys like Lindor and Polar Bear at first base in the middle of the lineup. I think they need to get a couple different bats, a couple different moves. They got a possible hole at third base, possible hole in the outfield. This team has to make a couple different moves, and I think it'll start with an outfielder like Marte.
Will, you seem pretty keen on the Chicago Cubs bringing things kind of back together, back to success, because you have Starling Marte going to the Chicago Cubs. Why is that?
Starling Marte is one of those guys who I feel like is kind of fallen under the radar and you can get for somewhat cheaper. I mean, the guy's been with Pittsburgh. He's been with Arizona, Miami, and Oakland. 3 out of those 4 teams don't know much about winning. So it's going to be a situation where, like, I feel like Starling Marte won't mind going to a somewhat iffy team that may need some help and may need some rebuilding. Another team I thought of, if they do not re-sign one of their outfielders, is the Milwaukee Brewers. I could see him making his way over there into Milwaukee, maybe moving Locaine out to right, or maybe having Starling play right if they don't re-sign Avisail. But Avisail is at least a cheap bat and probably their most consistent hitter in the outfield of the three, at least over the last season or two. So I don't see why they wouldn't bring him back. I think the Cubs they need to, I mean, obviously there's a lot of holes to fill in the Cubs. You know, there's a lot of places with new management. Typically your new management wants to come in, sign a star player and start over. Starling Marte is one of those guys. He just batted .310 and stole 47 bags last year. And you wouldn't think of him to still have that kind of speed, but he does. 47 on 53 attempts. That's ridiculous. That would be an amazing bat, an amazing addition at the start of the lineup for the Chicago Cubs to kind of set the bar for some of the guys later in the lineup, such as a Wilson Contreras or a Frank Schwindel, David Bodie even. I think it'd be a great addition for Chicago, and it just give me another reason to hate him because he'd be back in the NL Central.
Yeah, Starling Marte, I think it is because he's played on such unsuccessful teams throughout his career, has really fallen under the radar. I mean, I know there were points, you know, he was making all-star games more consistently, and we were referring to him as a top 10 outfielder in baseball. I think, you know, stolen bases alone, mixed with his offensive production, you could make that case. There are plenty of better outfielders, of course, your Acuñas, your Sotos, your Harpers, but Marte definitely under the radar, and perhaps the Cubs could snag him. I think that'd be a great addition to that team, and a team that looks so different than they did it, you know, a year from today. It would be big for that team. We'll move to one of the best utility players in the game today, Chris Taylor. He had quite the postseason with the Los Angeles Dodgers, definitely put himself on the map if he wasn't on there before. And we have him moving across the map and actually across the country. Jamil and I have him going to the Philadelphia Phillies, while Will is the outlier here. He has him going to the Detroit Tigers. Will, we'll start with you. Why the Tigers?
I feel like he needs to go to a team that can fill where he can do what he does, and that's play a ton of positions. You know, obviously, if they go get Correa, that fills in the shortstop void. But they have question marks at first base. You can move Jonathan Schoop over to first base, play Chris Taylor at second. If you need an off day at third, he can go play third. He can go be an everyday player in the outfield. And this is a young and upcoming team that I think is going to make a couple of moves. I think Chris Taylor is going to get his bag wherever he goes. But I like the Phillies. The Phillies is one of those two teams. I was thinking of about 3 or 4 different teams where I think he could fall, and Philadelphia was one of them, just because they need outfield help and infield help bad. And they're going to be trying to make a push with Bryce Harper for sure. But this is going to be a young and upcoming team. And I think this could be one where Correa signs first, and then you could start to see the pieces start to fall. Maybe you see an additional name or two come to Detroit that you weren't necessarily expecting. And I think Chris Taylor could be another one of those players who gets kind of like an underrated, unexpected kind of bag for a shorter term, maybe like a 3 or 4 year situation. But he could be a nice little super utility guy out in Detroit if they're going to be making a push.
I don't hate Detroit. I do definitely think he could fit in there, but when I went with Philly, there was one guy specifically I was thinking of as to where he had great success as a utility player in Philly, and that's Brad Miller. Brad Miller really turned it on in Philadelphia and was able to play almost, I think, every position except catcher. I think Brad Miller can play, and I think Chris Taylor's another one of those kind of guys. I don't know if he could play first base, but I know he could play pretty much everywhere else besides catcher. And, you know, like you said, they're a team that needs help pretty much everywhere at times. And he's definitely one of those guys that can fill different holes on different days. The offensive production has been there. There's so much depth with that Dodgers lineup. It's kind of, I guess, impressive to start for that kind of team because even their bench at times can look rather impressive. So the fact that he was getting starts over some players, I think speaks to his ability. I think he is an above average defender, which will definitely help, especially if he's moving around in different positions. I just think it's a good fit in Detroit, as well as a couple other places. Seattle was another one I know we discussed, and even Chicago, even with the Cubs, I don't think that'd be a bad look. But I did feel like Philly was the right home for him. Jamil, you went Philly as well. Any differing reasons on there?
Yeah, no, I'm kind of on the same page as you. You know, we talked about the Phillies earlier that need help, you know, mainly up the middle, second base, shortstop, center field. And I think Taylor can play in all those spots. He can fill in left, fill in third when needed. And I think he's a guy they can move around, shuffle around. And I think they're not going to be done. I think they need to add some more pieces. And he would be a really good guy to help bring this lineup along.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move to our final position player of the video, and that's Kris Bryant. Of course, he was part of the big trade deadline this past year, moving from the Chicago Cubs out west to the San Francisco Giants. He had a good year. He was an all-star, 25 home runs, 73 RBIs, hit 265, which I think is, decent, right? We're kind of right where you want to be, maybe a little higher, but still a good season. You two both have him moving up to Seattle to play with the Mariners. I have him staying home with the San Francisco Giants. And honestly, for me, if I'm the San Francisco Giants, this is a must sign. You're coming off I believe 107 win season. I think it's probably their best regular season ever for the Giants, or at least in a very, very long time. Yeah. So you kind of want to build on that. And, it's important to find which guys you need to hold on to and know that are a part of the future. And I think Kris Bryant is one of those guys. And he looked comfortable in San Francisco. I don't really think he faltered at all, like some guys moving to new teams like Rizzo and Gallo did with the Yankees. He seemed right at home. He was playing a little bit more outfield than third base. They, of course, still have Evan Longoria at third base. And he looked pretty comfortable in the outfield too. And I think, if you're flexible enough to move around, he's not the super utility like Chris Taylor, but if you do what you can for your team, they're going to repay you. And I do see Kris Bryant getting paid somewhat handsomely here, maybe not money he would have gotten a couple of years ago, with his best Cubs years, but he can easily, I feel like, have a season like that once again. And that could be what's coming. But I think he does wind up getting locked up with the San Francisco Giants for at least maybe 3-4 years. And they're going to continue to push because they showed this year that they're more than capable of contending with the big boys, because they did it. I mean, they won the division over the Dodgers, which nobody saw coming. If anything, it was going to be the Padres, who had plenty of issues. And I think, honestly, should be on this list a bit more. I think all of us kind of forgot about the Padres a little bit. But the Padres will be in talks. Off topic, though, you guys went with the Seattle Mariners. Jamil, tell us why.
I went with the Mariners. I think the Mariners, they had that good season last year. They finished very, very close to ending their playoff drought. And I think they're going to make a splash, and I just don't know where exactly it's going to come from. I think they're going to be heavy in on Semien, and I think they're going to be heavy in on Bryant. I think for me, Bryant came down to a couple different teams. I was on the Giants, the Phillies, the Mariners, and I think the Blue Jays are a dark horse for them too, because I think they have a hole at third base. But I think the Mariners just have to make a splash somewhere. You get a guy like Bryant, he can play a couple different places. He can play in third, he can play the corner outfielders. So I think he'll be a guy you can stick into that lineup. He replaces Seager, a long mainstay on that team, and he slides right on where Seager was.
Yeah, I think it perfectly fills a hole. Will, any idea on what kind of contract you see Kris Bryant getting?
I think he's going to be getting honestly, he's still going to get a pretty decent bag. He's still pretty young. He's going to be getting a multi-year deal for sure, probably anywhere between 20-25 million. I wouldn't be shocked to see annually a year, but that's the thing. And I think, Matt and you and I were talking about it not too long ago, and I said Kris Bryant to Seattle, and you were saying no way. You were like, you were kind of like, come on now, and I think, and I'm glad Jamil said those teams, because those are the same exact teams I was thinking, minus Philadelphia. I was thinking those three teams. I was thinking Toronto, Seattle, and San Francisco. And the way I see it is, not only does he replace Kyle Seager, who was making $20 million, so that's $20 million already in advance that you can throw at Kris Bryant. But then again, it's another person you can put in that lineup to protect a young guy like Jarred Kelenic. Whenever you have the 2, 3, 4 of Kelenic, Haniger, Bryant, that's going to be a nice cushion for a guy like Kelenic, to where you don't have to pitch around him. You have to actually pitch to him. Otherwise, you're going to be facing some of the bigger bats in that lineup, especially in the, and some would say in the MLB. Haniger had a great season last year. Kris Bryant, a very consistent hitter. He's a West Coast guy. Kris Bryant's from California, if I'm not mistaken,
Vegas.
or Vegas, so they don't have a team in Vegas, so he's got to go somewhere, Bay Area. Again, it's not the worst idea. If I had to pick a second team, San Francisco would probably be the second team to go back to. But I like the addition of him going to Seattle. I think they're, again, I mentioned earlier with the shortstops, I think they're going to make a big splash for somebody. I think it's going to be Kris Bryant.
And that very well could happen. I mean, I'm not doubting that, although it's a smaller market, so I'm always kind of hesitant a little bit.
Right.
But it would fit. Kyle Seager gone, Bryant fits right in easy. We'll move to our pitchers where there's no lack of talent. We'll start with a future Hall of Famer, Max Scherzer, Cy Young finalist at the time of recording. Did he win it? Did he not? You'll see if you watch it around there. And who knows? Age 37 though, but he had one of the best seasons of his career. What do we got? 15-4, a 2.46 ERA, 236 strikeouts. I mean, no signs of slowing down really. Was traded from the Nationals to the Dodgers at the deadline and really turned it up from there. Was the Dodgers' best pitcher in half a season compared to even some from the entire season. Walker Buehler, I'm sorry. Max Scherzer is insane. And, you know, all three of us have him staying in Los Angeles. I personally think that he's a very important piece of this rotation despite age. I don't know if he'll get more than he's not going to get more than like maybe a 3-year deal, I think. But it's going to be one that he's paid handsomely and definitely his worth will be acknowledged.
I think he's going to have a higher AAV than Trevor Bauer. I think he's going to break that record. I think he's going to be the highest annually paid pitcher. I think they're going to give him maybe a 1 or a 2-year deal, but the numbers he put up in LA, just LA alone, were ridiculous. I mean, it was video game like. What did he go, like 7-1 or like 8-1?
Something like that, yeah.
Sub 1 ERA and like 100 Ks to like 2 walks. Something stupid, obviously exaggerating a little bit, but I mean, the guy was absolutely lights out. I wouldn't be shocked to see a very short term with a very, very high money upside, and to see him just get paid out the ass.
Well, what do you think about that? You know, a high AAV to a 37-year-old, do you think there's some kind of risk? I mean, the end of the playoffs, dead arm. I mean, when you hear those words for a pitcher, you kind of get a little scared. I mean, those are typically, you know.
I mean, it's definitely given that high of an AAV to a 37, 38-year-old pitcher is always not the safest idea. But then again, it's Max Scherzer. You know, it's a guy with little injury issues. I mean, he hasn't had anything substantial. Like, he hasn't had a Tommy John. He hasn't had like or anything, at least recently, hasn't had anything that really kind of takes him off the shelf. It's not like we're giving like a 38-year-old Steven Strasburg a bag, or we're going to be giving out a $50 million contract to Verlander, who hasn't touched a mound in almost 2 years, so it's one of those to where, Scherzer could be coming off of another Cy Young Award season, one that he's been in the conversation for the last 5 years, maybe. Whether he's won it or not, he's been up there as a finalist for multiple years now. The guy's gross, and there really isn't any signs of him slowing down. I wouldn't be shocked to see him get paid. Honestly, if they wanted to give him a 1-year deal for like $45 million, I wouldn't be shocked, honestly.
Jamil, do you think that's reasonable? Because honestly, 1 year, $45 million is a little outlandish, you could say. What are your thoughts on
45?
Something
that
like
definitely have to be a record, right?
Yeah.
Trevor, if I'm not mistaken, Bauer annually was making about 45 a year.
He's 40.
Was it 45?
It was like 40 or 45.
I know it's in the 40s.
I thought it was in the 30s.
I think it starts with a 4, but that'd be pretty wild. But if anybody's gonna do it, it's gonna be the Dodgers. And this dude Max Scherzer is like me. He's getting better with age, like wine, man. And he's going crazy. And I think that he's an integral part about this team, because me personally, I think if he leaves the Dodgers, I think the Giants are gonna be right there, ready to bid on him. And if you're the Dodgers, you can't afford that, and you have to bring him back.
Okay, so Bauer is annually making 34.
I knew it was 30.
Don't be shocked if he gets 1 year 40. Like, I honestly not be shocked.
Was his front loaded or back loaded?
His is back loaded.
Oh, so that makes sense.
28 his first year, and now 32 the next two. Or wait, incorrect. 32, and then 32 the next 2 years. There's some money in there that is bonus money that kind of adds out to where it ends up being 34 average.
Well, this isn't a finance channel, but Bauer's making a lot of money. He's kind of robbing that team.
We'll see if he's allowed to pitch this year.
Yeah. Do we want him back? I don't know. But Scherzer, I do think the Dodgers will want back, and I think you two can agree. We'll move to another future Hall of Famer, sorry. Justin Verlander coming off Tommy John. Will, like you mentioned, he hasn't touched a mound in almost 2 years. And we're actually split on this one. Will, you have him returning to Houston. Jamil, you have him going out to San Fran. I think kind of like you just said, where San Fran will be waiting for Scherzer. And I have him going to my New York Yankees. Jamil, I'll start with you, though. Why the Giants?
Yeah, for me, I think the Giants need to address the rotation. They're losing a couple of different pieces off of it. And I think they're going to be in on a couple of different guys. I think they're going to try to be in on Max Scherzer. I also think the Dodgers are going to be throwing their tires around Justin Verlander too. But I think at the end of the day, the Giants have the need and they have the money to give Verlander. I saw he wants a 2-year deal, something around there. So I think they can afford to give him a 2-year deal and to see what he has in the tank. Because if he has what he had in the tank with Houston, you're still getting a good, reliable starter.
Will, what makes you think he'll stay in Houston?
Just more comfortability more than anything. I mean, yeah, he's been hurt, but he's also been working with that staff to try to, kind of get back on his own horse. Now, if the injury problems come from maybe PT or something to try to recover, then maybe he steps away from Houston. But if anybody knows what he looks like best as of recent, it's going to be Houston. They're going to know exactly what he's working with. They're going to know, I know he just had that tryout basically where he basically threw an open bullpen session and a couple of teams were there. Like half the MLB was there or something like that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked to see him step away from Houston. But I just think with a guy who's been injured that long, a couple of teams are going to be hesitant to throw big money at him. So I think the biggest money is probably going to come from Houston. And then, whenever you're in Houston, you're going to be contending for a championship most of the time. So I don't see why he would leave.
Well, I am fully ready for 1 year of Justin Verlander in the Bronx with a club option. Give me a club option for the second year if we like him. This gives me full early 2000s Roger Clemens vibes. We brought Clemens out of retirement. We're bringing Verlander out of Tommy John. There's a risk there. There's the risk factor with age. Verlander's entering I got notes.
Like 38 or 39.
I don't have the note. Yeah, age 38 or 39 season. He's up there. Clemens, I believe, was already in his 40s when we brought him back, and he ruled. He was great. Verlander, of course, is a risk. Tommy John, you're coming back. You haven't touched a mound. You got to ease into it. The Yankees have their own pitching injury trouble. Severino just came back maybe like a month before the season ended, and we used him out of the bullpen, and for the most part, he was good, and that's nice. And we're going to want him as a part of the pen. As a part of the rotation come April. But you have Verlander, who, shared a rotation with Garrett Cole. There's familiarity there. They're friends. I know their wives are friends. That'd be easy transition. Garrett Cole, I'm sure, would be a part of the meeting that the Yankees have with Verlander and his agent. You've got to try to coerce him any way you can. And I think Garrett Cole could be a perfect, middleman for that. It doesn't have to be anything too expensive, maybe closer to, in between 10 and 20 million, I would say, for the 1 year. And then second year, if the option is picked up, that's another story. But I definitely think this is another piece the Yankees could use. There's talks about Tanaka coming back from Japan, but I do think that Verlander, even at his age, kind of eclipses that. But either way would put together quite the rotation. Cole, Verlander, Severino. You got Jameson Taillon, who had ups and downs, but I think overall had a solid year. You have Jordan Montgomery, who I think has grown quite a bit as a starting pitcher. You have the possibility of a Tanaka or any other really. There are quite a few pitchers really available on the market. A guy like John Gray maybe could come to New York. There was slight conversations around the deadline for that, but nothing really came to fruition there. But the Yankees have a lot of options here. You also have Luis Gil. You have Clark Schmidt, Michael King potentially if they want to convert him back to a starter. You got options. Corey Kluber's a free agent. They're not going to bring him back. You have an opening there in the rotation automatically. Why not fill it with another vet like Justin Verlander? We'll move on to another Cy Young finalist, that being Robbie Ray. The Blue Jays gave him the 1 year deal. He made the most of it, I'd definitely say. Was among the best in the American League this season. Wound up leading the American League and MLB in a couple of different categories. I think strikeouts and innings pitched being a few of them. Will, you have Robbie Ray returning to the Blue Jays. Tell us why.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be one of those things to where Robbie Ray hasn't necessarily had a season like that. Obviously he's a power pitcher. He's a strikeout first guy, but it leads to quite a bit of walks. This year, he really kind of controlled that a little bit more. Players were having trouble hitting off of him. And I think Robbie Ray is just one of those, he fills in with Toronto. And I think this kind of reminds me a little bit of Gausman, a little bit, wherever it's going to be a situation to where, you pitch that well with that one team to where this team knows what they can get out of you. But a lot of other teams may be hesitant because they'll see what you've done in the past. Do you want to come out, sign big money, or throw big money at a guy who had, a Cy Young caliber season, but one of them, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Trevor Bauer situation. Trevor Bauer was a decent pitcher. He happened to be in the Indians in the Indians franchise, so he was a 4 starter, but he ended up having a Cy Young caliber season. Dodgers throw the freaking bag at him, and then next thing you know, he's gone. Obviously, it's not because of his playing ability, because of something else. But whatever the situation is, I just think it's going to be the safer bet for the Toronto to just bring him back. Plus, they need to fill some pitching holes. Manoah's great, but had injury issues. Pearson, young and upcoming, but again, injury issues. It's going to be one of those to where if they can bring back Robbie Ray and kind of solidify a guy who's going to be healthy and pitch decent, I don't see why they would. I don't see why they'd let him go.
Jamil, you also chosen to stay with the Toronto Blue Jays. What kind of contract do you see him getting? Off one spectacular year and years past, solid, middle of the rotation kind of guy. How do you value this?
I think he's definitely going to be able to nab like a 4-year deal. I think he's definitely going to get something long term. He's going to get paid pretty handsomely, I think. But like you mentioned, you're on the risk of paying a guy that only had his one big year on the 1-year deal. But he did it with the Blue Jays. So if you're the Blue Jays, you bring him back and you say, this is what worked. We have the data points that we like. We fixed this, and this. And we think if you stay here, you're going to be able to stay on that trajectory. And I think if they bring him back, if he pitches anywhere near the way he pitched, they have the best rotation in that division right now.
But see, you guys picking Ray to stay kind of supports my assumption that they can only keep Semien and Ray. You guys both had Semien leaving. I had Semien staying. You guys both had Ray staying. I have Robbie Ray leaving, and I have him going to the Dodgers. The Dodgers have no real money limit, unlike some other teams that have high payrolls and choose to save money for whatever reason. New York Yankees, Hal Steinbrenner, cheap kind of ownership. And the Dodgers don't have that. And that's great for the fans, and that's great for the team. And they're more successful because of it. And I do have them getting, bringing Scherzer back and adding Robbie Ray. And this would probably cement the best rotation in baseball. You still have Walker Buehler. Julio Urias is coming off. I know wins don't mean as much, but he won like 21 games, led the MLB, something crazy. He actually had a really good year. And you still have a few guys, besides that could fill in any other gaps, but has to be a top 5 rotation in baseball. And really, the Dodgers are already a superpower, but, add Robbie Ray onto it. It just gets even better from there. We'll move to a Dodger who we have leaving. Actually, Jamil, you have him staying, but it's Clayton Kershaw. Getting not necessarily up there in age, but he is age 33. He'll be entering age 34 season. I personally have him heading out to Anaheim with the Angels. They've needed pitching forever. Will has him moving out to Texas, who, are on the brink of maybe something special if they can bring in the right guys. And then Jamil, you have him returning. So Jamil, I'll start with you. Why do you have him returning?
Yeah, I know we talked about this briefly off camera a couple of days ago, but for me, it's just he's been there for so long. I just can't envision both parties wanting to separate. I think they're going to come to a money agreement that both of them can agree on. They could bring Clayton back. Obviously, he's not the workhorse he was 5 years ago, but he can still be a reliable starter for you when he's healthy, and he can still fit right on with that rotation. That can still be very, very good. I just don't see a world where he's going to end up leaving. Yeah,
I definitely see where you're coming from there. He is one of those guys where it's hard to imagine him elsewhere, but, the league right now, at least half the league right now is looking for starting pitching. And I do think Kershaw could get more money elsewhere, potentially from the teams Will and I credit here. But there's just, I don't know. I feel like the Dodgers don't need him as much as they used to, especially with how Kershaw, I mean, he has slightly declined. He's not the Cy Young Triple Crown guy anymore, but he's still a good pitcher. Will, what made you pick Texas, out of all the teams that need pitching?
Jamil said it earlier. Texas is going to be one of those teams that's going to be looking to make a splash. He said it whenever he said Marcus Semien. This is a Texas guy coming home local to his hometown team, a team that needs to make a splash, a team that needs pitching more than anything. Throw him out there and just see what sticks. I think this is going to be a team that could throw a bag at him, and probably even more money than the Dodgers probably be willing to throw at him. And just to have him come out there for a couple of years, maybe 2-year deal, 3-year deal, and have him sit and be the ace of the Rangers staff while they try to bring that young core together.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a bad idea at all. I personally just went with Anaheim with the Los Angeles Angels because they've needed pitching for so long, and you're finally somewhat getting the offense together. You're hoping Trout's healthy next year. Shohei Ohtani just had an insane season, both at the plate and on the mound. Anthony Rendon's been somewhat of a disappointment, but you got to kind of hope he bounces back. David Fletcher's been good. They're starting to develop pieces. Joe Adell is coming into the mix finally. The pieces are coming together. It's really time to get the wheels going on pitching. You had a bright spot in the bullpen with Rasiel Iglesias. Whether or not he stays, we'll find out. He's a free agent as well. But you somewhat found a closer in Iglesias. He had a good year. You're going to want to hold on to him. Will they? I'm not sure. It's the Angels. They've somehow found a problem over the last probably decade at least. Since the John Lackey, CJ Wilson kind of days to struggle, on the mound. And it's odd because they're still in a pretty good market. They're not the Dodgers, but you're still in a good spot as to where you can bring guys in. I don't think they have that terrible of a payroll. They're not the Athletics or the Rays or anything like that. I think they could really make a splash, and I really want to see it. So I'm going to try to push Clayton Kershaw in that direction. It'd be interesting with what do they call it? What's their rivalry called? The Angels and Dodgers, Midway or Beltway or?
It's not Beltway.
No, Beltway is Washington and Baltimore, isn't it? Yeah.
A highway rivalry? I don't know.
They do something over in LA and the Dodgers win all the time. That's typically how that goes. And I'm trying to change. And as a supporter of Shohei Ohtani mainly, but you want to see the Angels be successful at some point. Trout needs a ring or
you want to see him in the playoffs.
Yeah, give him some postseason at bats. And Clayton Kershaw knows the postseason at this point. He got his ring a couple of years ago, and he's a guy that can help them get there. So I'm hoping that's the case. Whether that happens, we'll see. We'll move right into Kevin Gausman, actually, and all three of us unanimously have him returning to the San Francisco Giants. This is, I mentioned it earlier, how, keeping Bryant, keeping guys like Gausman, you want to build off of the great season you just had. And I do think Gausman's one of those guys that, fits that role. He had the best season of his career by far. And kind of like Semien, kind of like Robbie Ray, signed a 1-year deal. They took a chance, and he was very impressive. Now, how you value this contract-wise, I'm going to ask you guys, remains to be seen because, he's in a similar boat, but he was the Giants' best starting pitcher this year. And, you have some other guys, Logan Webb, who was very impressive in the playoffs, Anthony DeSclafani, who's actually also a free agent off of a 1-year deal that he signed with the Giants, similar to Gausman. He had a pretty good year as well. So the Giants are definitely in the market for more pitching. They declined the option on Johnny Cueto, who, in my opinion, is a future Cardinal. We'll see about that. Some things are just written in the stars. Well, it just happens. Fate takes us interesting places. But let me ask you guys, we all have him going back to the Giants, but what's this contract going to look like?
I don't think it's going to be much different than what he got. I really don't. It might be 2 years. It might be 2-3 years, but I really don't think they're going to really bump up any higher than $19 million what they were paying him. I mean, you could argue there's a difference. I think Robbie Ray got like an $8 million contract. He's going to double that. He's going to make a solid bit of money. Gausman got a pretty big 1-year deal going into his age 31 season, so he's not old, but he's also not young. I don't know. It's just one of those. It's still the bhave year of his career by quite a bit, if I'm not mistaken. You know, it's still one of those. I mean, you have to pay him for what he did, but how much more do you give him? I give him maybe 22, 23 a year, which is, a $5 million annual increase, and then give him maybe a multi-year deal, 2-3 years. But I don't see him getting much bigger of a bag, but I do see him going back to the Giants just because, again, career year by quite a bit. I'd imagine the Giants want to keep a couple of people from their 107 win team, So I could see, I think it's almost written in the stars that Gausman returns.
Jamil, anything to add?
I think we'll hit it right on the head. I think he's definitely going to come back. I think he'll get more than a 1-year deal this time, but how much money will he get? I don't know if he'll get anything over like $23 million a year.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be something in that range for sure. We'll move to another pitcher who's coming off the best season of his career. Carlos Rodon had the no-hitter. He was an all-star for the first time in his career. ERA 2.37. Very good. That's right where you want to be, honestly. 185 strikeouts to only 36 walks. I mean, that's a pretty good ratio there. Carlos Rodon, definitely one of the I still think he's underrated on the pitching market, but definitely somewhere that could find a new home, if not Chicago. Jamila, you have him staying, though, with the White Sox. Why is that?
I do, I do see that they didn't have the qualifying offer, but I think at the end of the day, I think obviously when you have your best career year and you've been somewhere for so long that you might not want to leave. And I think the White Sox do want to keep him. I think they'll find a happy medium with him and get him to come on back down to the South Side.
Will you have him going out to Anaheim with the Los Angeles Angels?
Yeah, it's a team that has needed pitching for a very long time. You went with Kershaw, Matt. I know you did. So this is another lefty. And if you're gonna bring back Rodon, you're gonna have to pay him a bag. He's going into his age 29 season, and last year only on a 1-year, $3 million contract. This might be the pitcher who gains like the most money this offseason. He's going to get a pretty substantial contract. I'd imagine going to be upwards towards 20 million, maybe even north of that, 2025, a multi-year deal again. I think the Anaheim Angels could go get that guy. Obviously, it's been the thing forever. They need pitching. They need to get Trout into the playoffs. They need to just see what they can do. Now you have Ohtani. You at least have a pitcher. Get somebody else, dear God. Right now that team is built off of Ohtani and Rasiel Iglesias, and Iglesias is a free agent. So it's a little awkward. You need to get somebody else in there. Angels are another team with quite a bit of money. If I'm not mistaken, top 5, if not top 5, top 10 in the MLB and payroll. They have some money they can throw towards it with a couple of guys coming off the books. I
can't disagree with LA. Of course, through Kershaw, I expressed my displeasure with the Angels' pursuit of pitching, and definitely wouldn't mind that at all. I could also see him re-signing in Chicago with the White Sox. That wouldn't be too out of the ordinary, but I need to give San Diego some, attention here because we really haven't been giving them much. I have Carlos Rodon heading out west to the San Diego Padres. Pitching was somewhat the Padres' downfall this past season, and it cost Jace Tingler his job. I think a lot of it was credit to the bullpen, which was lackluster. The rotation had some good names: Blake Snell, Yu Darvish, Joe Musgrove, who of course got them their first no-hitter. They had a decent season starting pitching wise, but adding Rodon to this rotation, I mean, we talked about at the beginning of last season, the Padres having a top 5 rotation, but now, Clevenger is going to be healthy. And you add Rodon to this, I mean, it's there. I mean, it's really all there. And Bob Melvin now running the team, it's a good managerial choice. He had success in Oakland for the most part. And I mean, it's hard to see the Padres collapse again, if they get Carlos Rodon. I just think he would just fit out west. I'm not sure where he's from, but I want to say he might be from out west, or he might not even be from America.
Rodon?
Yeah.
Rodon is from Miami.
Wrong coast, wrong everything.
Yeah, that's kind of west on Western Hemisphere.
Sometimes, sometimes just don't got it. And
he's west of the meridian.
There you go. And I didn't get it there, but I do think he'd be a good fit in San Diego. We'll move to Marcus Stroman, who had a good season with the Mets. One of the better defensive pitchers, got snubbed of the Gold Glove, if we're being honest. 10-13 record, but it's the Mets. What are you going to do? The ERA was there, and that's what's important. We're split on this one. All three of us going different places, different parts of the country. Jamil, I'll start with you. You have him going to the Anaheim Angels.
I do. We mentioned earlier in this episode that the Angels need to go get pitching. And I think that when I first made my list, I had the Angels getting him and Robbie Ray, but I ended up switching Robbie Ray to go to Toronto. But I think that Marcus Stroman is going to be the benefactor of the Angels getting so much pitching that he is going to get. I think he's worth a lot of money, but I think he's going to get more than what he's even worth on the open market because the Angels need so much starting pitching. I think Stroman can slide in there and be a true number one ace for this team, with Ohtani being the number two because he doesn't pitch, every 5 days. He pitches on the Sundays. So I think that they can get a true reliable starter. He's going to give them 35 outings. He's going to give them the innings they need to really shore up the rest of that starting pitching and help the bullpen not to pitch so much.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of falls into our category with me having Kershaw there and Will having Rodon. They need pitching any way you can get it. So that's definitely not a bad spot for him. Will, you have him out west, but with the Seattle Mariners?
Yeah, this is a team, again, they're losing a lot of money off the books. Yusei Kikuchi's probably not going to get picked up. That's 16.5 off the books. James Paxton's going to be gone. That's $9 million. Corey Seager's gone. That's $20 million. There's a lot of money coming off, and they're losing like 3 of their 5 starting pitchers in their rotation this year. They're going to have a lot of open money and somebody to throw in there to come make Marco Gonzalez a number 2 instead of an ace would be nice. I think it'd be another great addition to this pitching staff. If Seattle wants to be legit, they need to go make some moves. I like him in Anaheim as well. I think that I could see Anaheim pulling out a couple of big pitchers this offseason. Honestly, I could see him going to go get Rodon and Kershaw. I could see him go and get Rodon and Stroman. I could see him making a couple of moves. Hell, if they want to get cheeky, go after Gausman. It is what it is. But yeah, I could see the Angels going after a couple of different pitchers, but I still think Seattle needs to pull out an ace and a true number 1 if they want to go out and continue to fight for a wild card spot or maybe even a divisional spot because they weren't too far off this year. I think with a couple of big splashes, you could see them right in the mix.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, I don't really see Marcus Stroman as an ace. I never really have. Maybe when he was coming up with Toronto, he had that potential. But right now, I think he's a middle of rotation guy. And I have him going to the Boston Red Sox, with the potential of Eduardo Rodriguez leaving. Whether or not that happens, we'll see. It does create some uncertainty with the Red Sox rotation. You have Nathan Eovaldi, who had a good year last year. He's, there to stay for the time being. Chris Sale was injured, came back, kind of struggled, honestly. So there is plenty of uncertainty. They didn't pick up the option on Garrett Richards, so they do have some room to fill that rotation. And I think Stroman would fit in there perfectly as a 3-starter behind Eovaldi and Sale. Of course, he'd move up when one of them gets injured because both of them have that history. So it's not out of the ordinary for them. I do think he would find a good home there, along with a couple other guys, because I do see Boston trying their best to stay active. But those are our main guys. Here you'll see a couple other guys, Kyle Schwarber, Kenley, Jansen. If you're looking for a specific player, timestamps will be down below. But that's been it, boys. I mean, it's been fun. It's been the 2021 MLB free agent predictions. Hopefully we get some right this year because last year kind of fell flat. But it'll be interesting offseason for sure. Hopefully there's no strike and we can enjoy baseball come February and March. But for Jamil King, Will Polston, I've been Matthew Perry. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.